I learned something the day my world cracked open. Sometimes the person you lift the highest is the same person who kicks you hardest on the way down. And that's exactly what happened the morning my husband called me unworthy. Right there in a courtroom packed with strangers. I paid for his dreams for 6 long years. He graduated, looked me dead in the eyes, and told the judge I was too simple for his new life. But he didn't know what I brought with me that day. He didn't know the truth wrapped inside that manila envelope. He didn't know the judge would open it, read one page, and literally burst out laughing. Before we go any further, my name is Nora Bennett, and trust me, girl, you're not ready for what happened next. But hey, tell me in the comments, where are you listening from? I love seeing where our sisters tune in from. Alright, let's start from the moment everything began to fall apart. The courtroom smelled like old paper and stress. The kind of smell that sticks to your clothes, whether you want it or not. I sat there trying to breathe slow, trying to look calm, trying not to show how bad my hands were shaking. Across the room, Daniel sat with his fancy lawyer, a man in a suit so expensive it should have had its own security guard. Daniel didn't even look at me. Not really. He had that new smug face I'd started to hate, chin lifted, eyes cold, acting like he didn't even know me. Your Honor, the lawyer said, my client built his career through hard work. Mrs. Bennett made no meaningful contribution. Ouch, yeah, he said that, with a straight face. After everything I did for him. 6 years, 3 jobs, my entire youth, my entire energy, my entire life poured into his dream. And now here he was, pretending I'd done nothing. I should have cried. I should have broken down. I should have begged. But I didn't. Because I knew something he didn't. Sitting inside my bag, right by my feet, was an envelope holding 2 things Daniel never expected me to still have. A contract he signed years ago, and a recording he forgot existed. And once the judge saw them, oh, sweetheart, Daniel's little performance was going to explode right in his face. I looked at him one last time across that courtroom. He smirked, tilted his head like he'd already won. Like I was just some tired woman he'd outgrown. Like he was better than me now. Girl, I almost felt sorry for him, because he had no idea what was coming. And in the next moment, Judge Doyle leaned forward, looked straight at me, and said the words I'd been waiting for. Mrs. Bennett, do you have anything to submit to the court? Oh yes, I did. And when I stood up, Daniel's smile finally broke. The second I stood up in that courtroom, I swear I felt my whole life shift. Like the universe leaned in and whispered, go on, girl, it's your turn now. But before we reach that moment, you need to know how the trap was really set. Because what happened in that courtroom didn't start there. It started years earlier, back when Daniel Bennett still pretended he loved me. 8 years ago, we were just 2 kids in a tiny apartment the size of a shoebox. I'm talking peeling paint, a stove that clanked like it hated us, and a bathroom door that never closed right. But we thought we were rich, because we had each other. Daniel was 22, bright-eyed, talented, dreaming about becoming a doctor since he was a kid who patched up stuffed animals. I was 20, studying communications, working part-time at a grocery store. Life was tight, but we were good. Then one night, we sat at that wobbly kitchen table with bills spread everywhere. Electricity, rent, tuition deadlines. Numbers that didn't add up no matter how we twisted them. Daniel rubbed his face with both hands. Babe, I don't know how we're gonna make this work. I stared at the bills, at our future slipping between receipts and overdue notices. And girl, something brave or maybe foolish came out of my mouth. What if I take a year off school? Daniel froze.
What? No.
Nora, you worked so hard. I can go back later, I said. You can't. Not with med school. If you drop out, you might never return. Looking back, I should have paused, thought about myself, my own dreams. But when you love someone that deep, you don't think. You give. And I gave. I withdrew from college the next week, picked up full-time hours, got a second job waiting tables, started waking up at 5 a.m. and collapsing at midnight. All so Daniel could chase his dream with both hands. He used to kiss my forehead and whisper, "I'll make this worth it someday, Nora. I swear." Ouch. If only promises counted in a courtroom. But here's the part Daniel hoped I'd forgotten. Right before his second year started, his student loans hit a snag. Tuition deadline. Panic everywhere. He was about to lose his spot. Then, he came home holding a packet of papers. "Babe, I need a cosigner. Just for this scholarship thing. It's no big deal." He said it fast. Too fast. But I trusted him. Of course I did. I signed the papers without a second thought. The sound that pen made on the paper. I swear it haunts me now. Because that little scholarship thing was actually a contract linking me to his entire future income. A contract he hoped I'd never remember. A contract he pretended didn't exist. A contract sitting inside the envelope in my bag, right now, waiting to blow up his whole case. And as I stood in that courtroom ready to hand it over, I saw Daniel Bennett's face twitch for the first time. Because deep down, he knew exactly what I was about to do. People assume betrayal hits you all at once. Like a punch. Like a moment you never saw coming. But mine didn't start with the divorce. It started with a tiny signature on a form Daniel swore was nothing important. Back then, I still believed every word he said. After I signed that scholarship contract, life didn't get easier. It got heavier. Bills piled up. Daniel's classes doubled. And suddenly, my 2 jobs weren't enough. So I picked up a third one. Cleaning offices late at night. Scrubbing floors until my hands cracked. Breathing in chemicals that made my eyes sting. But every time I dragged myself home near midnight, Daniel would smile and say, "You're my hero. I'll make this all worth it one day." And I believed him. For a while. Months passed. Daniel started spending more time on campus and less time at home. At first, I thought it was the workload. Med school was no joke. But then, I noticed little things. He stopped asking about my day. Stopped hugging me when I walked in. Stopped looking at me the way he used to. One night, I overheard something that should have shaken me harder than it did. Daniel was studying with a few classmates in our apartment, the wealthy ones. The designer shoes and perfect hair ones. I was washing dishes quietly when I heard one of them laugh and say, "Bro, she still works at that grocery store?" Daniel laughed too. Ouch! That laugh cut deeper than anything else. But the real hit came later that week. We were getting ready to attend one of his medical mixers. An event where everyone pretends to be fancy, even though most of them were drowning in student loans. I'd bought a $12 dress from the clearance rack. Simple. Dark blue. Not much, but it was all I could afford. Daniel looked at me from the doorway, his expression tight. "Why don't you ever dress up more? Try a little harder." "Just for me." He said it fast, too fast. I tried not to take it personally. Tried to remind myself he was stressed. Tired. Overworked. But I felt something crack, deep in my chest. Still, I pushed that pain aside. Because love makes you do that. Until it shouldn't. Then came the night everything officially shifted. Daniel came home late. Real late. Cologne strong enough to fill the room. Shirt wrinkled. Hair too styled to have been studying. I asked, "Rough night?" He shrugged. "Just busy." Sure." But when he walked past me, I smelled something I'd never worn in my life. A woman's perfume. Sweet. Expensive. And completely out of place in our tiny apartment. I froze mid-breath. Daniel didn't notice. Or pretended not to. And that was the moment, the first moment, I felt something was very, very wrong. But the truth? I had no idea just how deep the lies went. Because soon, I discovered Daniel wasn't just drifting away. He was already building a future. Without me. The night I smelled that perfume. I should have trusted my gut. I really should have. But when you love someone, you tell yourself stories. Nice little lies. Just to keep your heart from cracking open. And girl, I told myself plenty of lies. Maybe it's his coworker's perfume. Maybe he brushed past somebody at the hospital. Maybe I'm just tired. But deep down, in that quiet place where the truth always sits, I knew something wasn't right. The next morning, Daniel acted like nothing happened. He ate cereal, checked his phone, barely said good morning. I watched him closely. That little shift in his eyes. That new restlessness. That way he kept adjusting his tie like he needed to look perfect for someone else. Ouch. Yeah. It stung. But the real warning sign came a few days later. Daniel got home from a hospital dinner. One I wasn't invited to, by the way. He tossed his keys on the counter, loosened his tie, and said, "You need to try harder, Nora. You never dress up. You don't act like the wives in my department." I blinked at him. "Daniel, I work 3 jobs. When exactly am I supposed to glam up?" He sighed, long and loud, like I was annoying him just by breathing. "You just don't get it. In my field, image matters. Who you're with matters." That right there. That was the start of the downfall. From that night on, Daniel pulled further away. He stopped bringing me to events. Stopped texting me during breaks. Stopped sharing anything about his life. But you know what he did start doing? He started mentioning one name over and over. Alexis. At first, it was harmless. "Alexis," said the meeting went well. "Alexis organized the fundraiser. Alexis knows the board members." But then it shifted. "You should dress more like Alexis. She has style. You should try talking like Alexis. She's confident. You should learn from Alexis. She gets the professional world." Girl, I wanted to scream. But I didn't. Because screaming never fixes a man who's already halfway out the door. One night, after another long shift, I walked into the apartment and saw Daniel on the couch, whispering into his phone. Smiling. Laughing softly. He didn't hear me come in. He said,
"Yeah,
"I'll see you tomorrow. Don't worry. She never asks questions." Ouch! That line hit harder than any slap. I stood there frozen, watching the man I sacrificed everything for whisper to another woman like she was his real partner. He looked up and jumped slightly when he saw me. "You're home early," he muttered. Early. It was midnight. He cleared his throat, acting awkward. "It was just work stuff. Nothing big." Sure. But that night, for the first time, I didn't hug him goodnight, because for the first time, I felt the distance between us. Real, cold, and impossible to ignore. And the next morning, I found something that confirmed everything I feared. A text on his phone. From Alexis. "Last night was perfect. Can't wait to see you again." That text from Alexis. "Last night was perfect. Can't wait to see you again."
yeah,
That one. It didn't just sting. It burned. Deep. Sharp. Like someone dragged a blade across my chest. I stared at Daniel's phone so long. I swear time froze around me. And for one tiny second, I wanted to believe it was innocent. A misunderstanding. Wrong number. Some work thing. But girl, come on. Nobody texts "last night was perfect" after reviewing hospital charts. Daniel walked into the kitchen, saw his phone in my hand, and stopped cold. "What are you doing?" he snapped. I held the screen up. "Really, Daniel? This? After everything?" He snatched the phone away like a guilty teenager caught sneaking out. "It's not what you think. You're overreacting. You always do." Ouch, that line. Men love that one. The classic "you're crazy" move. But I wasn't crazy. I was tired. Broken. Exhausted from pretending we were still us. Daniel rubbed his forehead. "It's just professional. Alexis is helping me network. She understands my world." My world. I repeated. "Daniel, We built your world together. He rolled his eyes. Stop being dramatic, Nora. It was just dinner. Don't turn it into something it's not. But the way he said her name, soft, comfortable, too familiar, I knew exactly what it was. The next morning, I tried to talk calmly, tried to fix what was crumbling, tried to hold on to something that was already slipping through my fingers. Daniel, we need to talk about us. He didn't even look up from tying his tie. There is no us problem. There's a you problem. You're insecure. You're jealous. You don't understand my life anymore. The confidence. The arrogance. The way he said my life like I'd never been part of it. That was the sign the man I loved was gone. I still went to work that day. Still dragged myself through my cashier shift. Still smiled at customers. Still tried to breathe. But inside, I was unraveling. And then, as if the universe wanted to rub salt into my wounds, I got a message during my break. A photo. Daniel, Alexis, and a group of coworkers, all at some fancy rooftop restaurant, laughing, glasses raised, celebrating something I wasn't invited to. The caption under the photo said, "Congrats, Daniel." I felt my heart fall straight to the floor. Congrats. For what? I zoomed in, and there it was. Alexis's hand, resting on Daniel's arm like she owned him. My throat closed. My chest tightened. My hands shook. But what hurt the most wasn't the photo. It was the realization that Daniel didn't even care if I saw it. He wanted me to see it. Wanted me to understand something without him saying it. I wasn't part of his new life anymore. And that night, when I walked into our apartment, Daniel dropped the final blow. He looked me dead in the eyes. No emotion, no guilt, no shame, and said, "Nora, you're not worthy of the man I'm becoming. You're not worthy of the man I'm becoming." Those words didn't just hurt. They hollowed me out, left me standing there like someone pulled my soul straight through my chest. I wanted to scream, fight, argue, say something powerful, but nothing came out. Daniel brushed past me like I was a stranger in his hallway, grabbed his gym bag, and walked out the door without looking back. The silence he left behind was louder than any argument. I sat on the edge of our bed, hands shaking, mind spinning, trying to understand how 8 years of love turned into this cold stranger who couldn't wait to leave me behind. The next few days were a blur. Daniel acted like everything was normal. Well, normal for him. Cold, distant, distracted. He'd get home late, smell like expensive cologne again, and toss his jacket over a chair like the world owed him something. I stopped asking questions, stopped chasing him, stopped trying to fix something he'd already thrown away. But I watched, quietly, carefully, taking in every shift, every habit, every slip-up. And then it happened. One night, I walked into the hallway just as Daniel was talking on the phone. He didn't know I was there. Didn't hear me over his own voice. He said, "I'll talk to the lawyer tomorrow. She won't fight it. Nora's too soft. She'll just sign." Ouch, soft. Girl? If only he knew what kind of storm he was creating. He hung up when he heard me walking toward the kitchen, placed his phone face down. Classic guilty move. "Nora, I need to talk to you," he said, straightening his shirt. My stomach dropped. I already knew what was coming. He cleared his throat. "I'm filing for divorce." There it was. Cold, sharp, without a single drop of remorse. I swallowed hard. Soon, my lawyer will handle everything. You'll get a small settlement. Just sign and make this easy. I blinked. A settlement? After everything I did for you? Daniel laughed under his breath. That dry, ugly sound I'd grown to hate. "You didn't build my career, Nora. I did. You were just there. Just there, like my years didn't matter. Like my life was background noise." Something in me shifted right then. A spark, tiny but fierce, lit behind my ribs. Daniel reached into a desk drawer, pulled out the divorce papers, and slid them across the counter like a receipt. I already signed my part. Just do yours. We both know you can't afford a fight. He said it casually, like he was discussing the weather. I stared at those papers, my hands trembling, my throat tight. But inside, that spark grew bigger, hotter, stronger, because Daniel Bennett had forgotten something crucial. Yes, he had the money, the career, the shiny new life. But I had something he didn't know about. Something he didn't remember signing. Something sitting in an old binder. Something that could break his entire world in half. And soon, I was going to find it. I didn't sign the divorce papers. Not that night. Not the next morning. Something inside me finally woke up. Loud, sharp, angry. For years, I'd bent myself into shapes just to keep us alive.
Just to keep him rising.
But now, I wasn't bending for him ever again. The next evening, I got home from my cashier shift and found Daniel in the living room, dressed sharp, hair perfect, smelling like that same sweet, expensive perfume that wasn't mine. He didn't even bother hiding it anymore. He looked at me with impatience. You didn't sign them? No, I said quietly. Not yet. He exhaled hard, annoyed, like my existence was a delay in his schedule. Nora, don't make this difficult. We're not the same people. I've outgrown this marriage. I've outgrown you. Ouch! If disrespect had a sound, that was it. Before I could reply, Daniel's phone buzzed. Face lit up, smile flashed. Yeah, it was her, Alexis. He stepped into the hallway and answered quietly. But not quiet enough. Yeah, I'm leaving soon. She hasn't signed yet, but she will. She always folds. Fold. Oh, sweetheart. That version of me was gone. After he left for his meeting, I sat on the couch, divorce papers in front of me, my hands trembling, but my mind suddenly sharper than it had been in months. Everything he'd said, everything he'd lied about, all of it pointed to one truth. Daniel thought I was weak, easy, disposable. But he also forgot something else. I don't throw things away easily, especially not paperwork. And somewhere in our old storage closet, buried under winter coats and shoeboxes, was the one thing Daniel never wanted to see again. The scholarship form. The contract he rushed me through. Talking fast, too fast. Telling me it was nothing big. A contract that legally tied me to his financial future. A contract he hoped I'd forgotten. A contract he prayed I'd never find. Well, tonight, I was going to find it. I went to the closet, pulled everything out. Boxes, old blankets, piles of stuff we hadn't touched in years. Dust flew everywhere. My nose burned. My eyes watered. But I kept digging. Because sometimes revenge isn't dramatic. Sometimes it's just a woman in sweatpants pulling truth out of a cardboard box. Finally, at the bottom, under an old winter coat, I saw it. A faded blue binder, edges worn, corners bent, but still holding every paper from those early years. My heart pounded as I opened it. Bills, receipts, old class schedules, bank slips. And then there it was, a stapled packet, with Daniel's full signature, and my shaky little one right under it, the scholarship contract, the earnings sharing clause, the repayment promise, the legal tie he tried to erase. I held it in my hands, breathing fast, shaking hard, but smiling for the first time in months, because Daniel Bennett had no idea, no clue, that the one paper he counted on disappearing had survived. And tomorrow, I was going to show it to someone who knew exactly what to do with it. Claire. The next morning, I didn't cry, I didn't shake, I didn't fall apart. I woke up with one clear mission. Get this contract into the hands of the one person who wouldn't let Daniel walk all over me. Claire Donovan. my best friend, my ride or die, and the sharpest lawyer I knew. I tossed the blue binder into my work bag and headed straight to the small legal office where she worked. Didn't even text first. Didn't warn her. Didn't overthink it. I walked through the front door, and Claire looked up from her desk. One look at my face, and she stood up instantly. Nora, what happened? I set the binder on her desk. It's time. I'm done being soft. Help me fight. She didn't smile right away. She didn't hug me. She didn't gasp dramatically. She opened the binder, saw the first page, and froze. Then her eyebrows lifted slow, very slow, like she was watching a plot twist unfold in real time. Is this what I think it is? I nodded. That scholarship Daniel made me sign. The one he said was nothing. The one he told me not to worry about. Yeah, it's this. Claire flipped through the pages. Faster, faster. Her eyes wide. Nora, this isn't a scholarship form. This is a binding support agreement. A legal contract. Girl, this document ties you to his income. His progress, his future earnings. She laughed, this sharp, shocked laugh full of disbelief. Daniel is a whole idiot. Ouch! But she wasn't wrong. She kept reading. Then her hand suddenly stopped on one page. Oh my God. He added a repayment clause. He actually put it into writing. In his own handwriting. My heart thumped. What does that mean? Claire leaned back in her chair, smirking like a woman who just found a golden ticket. It means you didn't just help him. You invested in him? And he legally owes you for every year, every dollar, every sacrifice. I swallowed hard, my throat tight, relief mixing with anger. Will the judge care? Claire didn't blink. She'll care. She'll scream. She'll laugh. She might even hug you. Nora, this is massive. I sat quietly, letting her words sink in, feeling something I hadn't felt in months. Hope. Claire looked at me seriously. One question. Do you have anything else? Any messages, any old files? Anything Daniel may have forgotten? I thought for a second. And then it hit me. Wait, I think I might. Claire tilted her head. What is it? I pulled out my phone, logged into an old cloud account, one I hadn't touched in years. Scrolled, tapped a folder labeled school stuff. And there it was, a thumbnail of a video, taken in our tiny old apartment. Daniel sitting at the kitchen table, his voice clear as day. Nora paid for everything. All of it. I'll take care of her forever. I promise. Claire's jaw dropped. Girl, Daniel Bennett is done. That video stopped my breath. Not because of what Daniel said, but because of how honest he used to be back then. In that tiny kitchen, with peeling paint, with cheap cereal on the counter. He looked at me like I was his whole world. And now he couldn't even look at me without rolling his eyes. It hurt. But it also woke something inside me. Claire replayed the video twice. Then she looked at me like she was seeing a different woman. Nora, this isn't just evidence. This is leverage. My heart thumped hard. So, what do we do now? Claire didn't pause. We build your case. We organize every detail. We stop letting Daniel control the story. She pulled out a legal pad. Tell me everything. Every job. Every bill. Every sacrifice. So I told her. I told her about cashier mornings, diner nights, office cleaning until my hands cracked, 3-hour sleeps, crying in bathroom stalls, carrying our entire life alone. Claire wrote fast, sharp, focused. This isn't just emotional damage. This is financial history. Judges don't ignore numbers. I swallowed. Do you think Daniel knows any of this survived? Claire smirked. Girl, he thinks you're soft. He thinks you kept nothing. He thinks you fold the moment he raises his voice. Ouch! Hearing it out loud stung. But it also lit something hot in my chest. Claire kept flipping through the binder. dividing things into sections. Contract, receipts, statements, old notes, everything clean and ready. Then she looked at me again. We need one more thing. Proof he used marital money on Alexis. I blinked. How do we find that? Claire leaned back. We request his financial records. If he spent even $1 of shared money on her, the judge will tear him apart. Good. Not out of revenge. Out of justice. We spent hours building the binder, adding the video file, labeling everything, preparing copies, making sure no page could be questioned. Claire closed the binder slowly. This is enough to shake a courtroom. And Daniel won't see one bit of it coming. Men like him never do. My chest felt lighter. For the first time in months, I felt something real, hope. Claire squeezed my hand. You're ready for this. You're not losing anymore. When I left her office, my phone buzzed. A message from Daniel. Sign the papers tonight. Don't drag this out. If only he knew. If only he realized the simple woman he underestimated was walking into that courtroom armed with the one thing he never planned for. The truth. Daniel had no idea what Claire and I were building behind the scenes. No clue, no awareness, no fear. He thought I was the same quiet woman who'd fold the second he snapped his fingers. Not anymore. The next morning, he strutted into the kitchen like a man who'd already won. Suit perfect, hair styled, cologne heavy enough to choke a room. He tapped the divorce papers on the counter. You need to sign these today. My lawyer says there's no reason for delay. I looked at him calmly. I haven't decided yet.
His jaw tightened.
You don't get to decide, Nora. We're done. Just accept it. Ouch. He really believed he owned the ending to my story. He picked up his coffee mug. You're dragging this out for no reason. You didn't contribute to my career. The court won't give you anything. If only he knew. He grabbed his keys. I have meetings. I'll check back tonight. Just sign. He left, door slammed, silence heavy. But this time, the silence didn't crush me. It fueled me. I grabbed my coat and the binder and headed straight to Claire's office for our first official meeting with her legal team. When I walked in, Claire looked ready for battle. She had papers laid out on the table, color-coded tabs everywhere, and her laptop open to several financial forms. We're almost ready. One more piece, and this case becomes ironclad. I sat down. What's missing? Claire clicked a folder. Proof of marital spending on Alexis. My stomach twisted. You think he really spent our money on her? Claire raised an eyebrow. Nora, men like Daniel don't spoil themselves. They spoil the woman they're trying to impress. True? She pushed a paper toward me. We submitted a request for his bank statements. Once we get them, we'll compare dates, text messages, receipts, everything. I nodded slowly. Should we prepare for court already? Claire smiled. Oh, we're way past preparing. We're building momentum. She opened the binder again. Let's run through this one more time. The contract, your signatures, his handwritten promise to repay you, the video, 6 years of receipts, your bank statements, his messages praising your support. She tapped each section firmly. These are not emotional claims. These are hard numbers. I felt heat rise in my chest. Real strength, real fire. Something I hadn't felt in years. Claire leaned in. And the best part? The judge we're getting, Judge Marcia Doyle, does not play. She doesn't tolerate liars. She doesn't tolerate financial betrayal. I swallowed. So, we really have a chance? Claire laughed. A chance? Nora, we're walking into court with a sledgehammer. We spent another 2 hours organizing every page. Highlighting, tagging, practicing what to say. Preparing for every question. Then, right as I packed up to leave, Claire's assistant rushed in. Claire, Daniel Bennett's financial records just came in. My heart stopped for a moment. Claire opened the envelope, skimmed the first few pages. Then her eyes widened. Oh my God, Nora. She turned the paper around. There it was. A $12,000 charge. Not for a hospital bill. Not for equipment. Not for a conference. But for a luxury weekend at a resort. 2 guests, Daniel's card. And the date. 3 weeks before he asked me for a divorce. Claire whispered. He used marital money. On Alexis. Claire spread the documents across her desk. Slow, steady. Like she already knew what was coming next. My breath paused. Because the moment she tapped the first page, everything inside me tightened. Look at this, she said softly. A hotel stay. Spa package. Dinner for 2. 3 weeks. Before he asked for a divorce. Ouch. I swallowed hard. But Claire wasn't done. She slid the next page toward me. Slow, deliberate. Designer jewelry. Flights. Luxury items. All charged to your marital account. My fingers curled. He used our money. For her? I whispered. Claire's eyes lifted. No, Nora. He used your money. That one hit deep. But then she tapped the paper that shook the ground under my feet. A $25,000 transfer. Straight into Alexis Reed's business. I blinked, hard. Trying to steady my voice. He gave her $25,000? Claire nodded slowly. And he tried to hide it.
Badly.
She pushed the binder closer. Listen, we have everything we need now. She lifted each section one by one. The contract you signed for him. His handwritten promise. The video from your old phone. 6 years of receipts, bank statements, and now, financial misconduct. My heartbeat thudded. Claire leaned in, voice low, dangerous. Nora, this isn't a divorce case anymore. This is a truth case. I stared at the binder. At the weight of 6 years. Every dollar, every sacrifice. Every night, I came home exhausted and still cooked dinner. Because he said he was too tired. Tears pricked the corner of my eyes. Not from pain, from clarity. What do I do now? I whispered. Claire smiled. Not a soft smile. A knowing one. We prepare your testimony. And we go in strong. She opened the video file. Daniel's face. Younger. Grateful. His voice echoing through the room. Nora paid for everything. All of it. I'll take care of her forever. Ouch. Hearing it again hurt more than I expected. But it also lit something inside me. Something steady, solid, unshakable. Claire placed a hand on my arm. You're scared, and that's okay. But fear doesn't cancel the truth. I nodded slowly, exhaling, letting the nerves shift into something sharper. Okay, I whispered. Tell me where to start. Claire lifted her pen, eyes locked on mine. Start with the moment Daniel asked you to sacrifice your future for his. We'll build from there. Layer by layer. Truth by truth. I closed my eyes for a moment, then opened them. Ready. This time, I wasn't walking into court afraid. I was walking in armed. The day of the hearing crept closer. Slow, heavy, like the air knew a storm was coming. And Daniel. He had no idea he was standing right in the center of it. But before we stepped inside that courtroom, Claire said we needed one more thing. My voice. Not the trembling one I used to speak with. Not the apologizing one. Not the one Daniel always talked over. My real voice. So we met again in her office, the binder open, the video file paused, the evidence glowing like a quiet fire between us. Claire sat across from me. Start from the moment everything changed, she said. Don't rush. Let the truth breathe. I inhaled slowly and began. I was 20, he was 22, and we were just 2 kids trying to build a dream. Claire nodded, writing fast. I kept going. We had nothing. Tiny apartment, leaking ceiling, a stove that clicked more than it cooked. But I loved him, deeply, blindly. Ouch! I swallowed, the memory sharp as glass. He asked me to take a break from school so he could finish med school. Said we were a team. Said he'd pay me back. Said I'd never regret supporting him. Claire lifted her eyes. And did you? She asked gently. I looked down at my hands. No, I whispered. I regretted trusting the wrong version of him. She nodded, writing. Now tell me about the contract. My chest tightened. He came home one night, papers in hand, talking fast, too fast, saying it was just a scholarship form. He told me to sign quickly, because he was late. I paused, breath shaking. I signed, because I loved him. Claire's pen slowed. And now, she said softly, you know that contract ties Daniel's entire future income to you. I nodded, shock still fresh even after days of knowing. It wasn't a scholarship, I whispered. It was a support agreement, legal, binding. He owes me for every year I carried him. Claire closed the binder gently. And the judge will see that. My eyes burned, but not from pain, from justice. I leaned back, exhaling, letting the truth settle in my chest like armor. Claire studied me for a long moment. Nora, she said quietly, you're strong. Stronger than you think. But tomorrow, you need to walk into that courtroom with your head high. I nodded slowly, feeling something powerful rise in me. I can do that, I said. Good, Claire whispered. Because the moment the judge asks if you have anything to present, you're going to hand her that envelope. My heart thudded. The envelope, holding the contract, the video, the receipts, the truth. Claire smiled, small, but victorious. Nora, she said softly, tomorrow is Daniel's reckoning, not yours. And in that moment, for the first time, I actually believed her. The morning of the hearing arrived with a sky that looked too calm, too still, like the world was holding its breath for what was about to unfold. And honestly, so was I. I dressed slowly, carefully, the way a woman prepares not for battle, but for truth. Simple blouse, neat ponytail, steady hands, steady heart. Claire texted me the moment she arrived outside. Ready. I stared at the mirror one last time, the woman looking back at me no longer shaking, no longer apologizing, no longer small. Yes, I whispered. When we arrived at the courthouse, Daniel was already there, leaning against the hallway wall, smirking, like he'd already won. He didn't expect me to show up steady. He didn't expect me to show up strong. He definitely didn't expect me to show up with the truth. Ouch! His lawyer stepped forward first, slick suit, slick smile, slick lies ready to spill. Mrs. Bennet, he said, if you'd like to resolve this quickly, we can. Claire cut him off without even blinking. No, thank you, she said calmly. We'll let the judge resolve it. Daniel's jaw twitched. We entered the courtroom, and my stomach tightened, not from fear, but from the weight of all the years I spent believing I was less. The judge took her seat, firm posture, sharp eyes. A woman who did not suffer fools, even on her lunch hour. Judge Doyle. Claire had been right. She was exactly the type Daniel should have feared. The hearing began with Daniel's lawyer painting him as the hardworking doctor, the dedicated provider, the man who succeeded through his own sacrifice. I almost laughed. Then Daniel took the stand. He talked about studying late, working long hours, building his future alone. Alone? Girl, if lies were bricks, he could have built an entire hospital. When it was our turn, Claire stood. Your Honor, the petitioner has omitted key financial and contractual information. We have evidence to present. The judge raised an eyebrow. I'm listening. Claire nodded to me. A silent signal. Steady. Go. I rose slowly, feeling every eye in the courtroom shift toward me. My legs didn't wobble. My hands didn't shake. My voice didn't crack. Your Honor, I said softly. I supported Daniel Bennet through 6 years of medical training. Financially, emotionally, entirely. Daniel shifted in his seat. Ouch! Then Claire placed the envelope in my hand. Mrs. Bennet, the judge said, do you have something for the court? I stepped forward, the envelope warm in my grip, holding the truth Daniel never expected me to hold. Yes, Your Honor, I said quietly. I placed it on her desk. The judge opened it, pulled out the first page, and her eyebrows shot up. Then she reached the handwritten section. Daniel's old promise, his old words, his old truth, and she actually paused.
Claire leaned in.
There's also a video, Your Honor. A hush swept across the room. Judge Doyle pressed play. Daniel's younger voice filled the courtroom. Nora paid for everything. Every dollar. Every sacrifice. I'll pay her back one day. I promise.
Gasps.
Whispers. Shock spreading like wildfire. Daniel's face went white, then red, then something darker. The judge looked at him over her glasses. Mr. Bennett, we're going to need to talk about this. And just like that, the story shifted. The moment Judge Doyle finished watching that video, the entire courtroom changed. Not loud, not chaotic, just this thick, electric silence. The kind that means the truth finally walked in. Daniel looked like someone had pulled the floor out from under his chair. Red, white, then this pale, chalky color that didn't match a man who thought he held all the power. And Claire wasn't even close to finished. Your Honor, she said calmly, that's just the beginning. She slid the next set of documents forward. Soft, controlled, deadly. These are 6 years of receipts, bank statements, and financial transfers, she continued. All paid by Mrs. Bennett, not by Mr. Bennett. Daniel's lawyer squirmed. Judge Doyle skimmed the papers, eyes narrowing, jaw tightening. Then she looked up at Daniel. Mr. Bennett, she said, do you have a response to any of this? Daniel swallowed hard. Twice, like the truth was stuck in his throat. I repaid some of it. No, he didn't, Claire said before he could finish. In fact, Your Honor, we have evidence of something else. Daniel's head snapped toward her. Ouch! Panic. Claire placed the final envelope on the judge's desk. The one we'd been saving. The one that would break the room open. Inside, she said softly, is proof that Mr. Bennett used marital funds to financially support another woman during the marriage. A ripple moved through the courtroom. Judge Doyle opened the folder, pulled out the resort receipts, the jewelry purchase, the flight tickets, the $25,000 business transfer. Her eyebrows rose higher with every page. Daniel looked like he wanted to melt through the floor. Nora, he whispered, voice cracking. I didn't look at him. Not once. The judge cleared her throat. Mr. Bennett, you told the court your wife made no meaningful contribution to your career. Daniel flinched. Judge Doyle lifted the contract, the secret agreement he'd made me sign back when he still needed me. And yet, she continued, this document shows you legally acknowledge her support as essential to your education. Daniel's lawyer tried to stand. Your Honor, if I may. No, she snapped. Sit. Even Claire smiled at that one. Judge Doyle folded her hands. Mrs. Bennett, she said gently, do you have anything else to add? I stepped forward. Slow, steady, the way a woman steps when she knows she finally gets to speak without being spoken over. Yes, Your Honor, I said softly. I have one thing. I reached into my bag, pulled out my phone. Open the banking app, Claire told me to bookmark. This, I said, showing the highlighted transfer, is the day my husband paid for a luxury weekend with another woman, using our joint account. Gasps spread like wildfire. Daniel covered his face with his hand, like he could hide from the truth if he couldn't see it. The judge leaned back slowly, very slowly, as if absorbing the entire disaster in front of her. Then she said the sentence that cracked everything open. Mr. Bennett, I suggest you brace yourself. Because the consequences were about to begin. The moment Judge Doyle said, brace yourself, Daniel finally looked afraid. Not annoyed, not smug, not superior. Afraid. And honestly, it was about time. He pushed his hair back with a shaking hand, eyes darting between me, the judge, and the papers piling like a mountain of his own choices. His lawyer whispered something in his ear. but Daniel was too panicked to hear it. Judge Doyle lifted the financial misconduct file again. "Mr. Bennett," she said, "do you deny these charges?" Daniel's voice cracked. I didn't think it mattered. It was complicated. No, the judge cut in firmly. It was deceitful and illegal if proven intentional. Ouch. Claire leaned forward, her voice calm. Too calm, the kind of calm that tells everyone the truth is already on the table. "Your Honor," she said softly, "there's one more detail." Daniel flinched like he'd been hit. "Claire, open the final tab in our binder." "This," she said, handing over the printout, "is the timeline comparing Mr. Bennett's spending on Alexis with the exact dates Nora worked overtime shifts to pay for his tuition, fees, and exam costs." Gasps rippled across the courtroom. The judge scanned the timeline, her expression tightening. "When your wife was paying for your education," she said slowly, "you were paying for another woman's vacations?" Daniel shook his head violently. No, it wasn't like that. I didn't know. Lies unravel fast when the truth walks in. Judge Doyle sighed. Long, heavy, the sound of a woman losing all patience. "Mr. Bennett, please stand." Daniel stood, wobbling, like his legs weren't ready to hold the weight of what was about to land. The judge glanced at me. "Mrs. Bennett, did you contribute financially to his education?" "Yes, Your Honor," I said softly. "Did you sacrifice your own education to support him?" "Yes." "Did you pay the majority of the household expenses while he was in school?" "Yes." "And did he acknowledge this support in writing?" I nodded. "Yes, and in a recorded video." The video still sat open on the judge's computer screen, his younger voice echoing like a ghost he couldn't outrun. Claire folded her hands. "Your Honor, all we're asking for is fairness." The judge straightened. "Fairness," she repeated. Then she turned to Daniel, her eyes steady, sharp, unyielding. "Mr. Bennett, based on the evidence, your wife did not contribute nothing. She contributed everything. She carried the financial burden. She delayed her future. She kept you afloat. She honored every promise. She set the contract down in front of him. You, on the other hand, dishonored your own signature." Daniel's lips trembled. "I'm sorry," he whispered, but the judge had already decided. And now, the court must determine the consequences. And they were going to hit hard. Judge Doyle's pen tapped once against the desk. Soft, sharp, the kind of sound that makes a whole room freeze. Everyone watched her. No one breathed. Not even Daniel. And then she opened the next folder. The subpoenaed financial records. "Mr. Bennett," she said slowly, "your spending history is concerning." Daniel's throat bobbed. "Your Honor, if I could just explain." "You will," she replied, "but first, the court will review the evidence." She slid the first page forward. A luxury resort weekend. 2 guests, Daniel's card. The next page. Designer bracelet. Alexis Reed as the recipient. The next. $25,000 wired to Alexis's business. Ouch! Daniel's lawyer tried to object. "Your Honor." "Sit down," she snapped. "We're not done." Claire leaned slightly toward me, just enough for her voice to reach my ear. "Ready?" she whispered. I nodded, steady, quiet, prepared. Judge Doyle looked at me next. "Mrs. Bennett, do you have anything to add to these financial findings?" I stood, my palms warm, my heartbeat calm. A woman who had carried 6 years of truth on her back. "Yes, Your Honor," I said softly. "Just one thing." I turned to Daniel. He looked at me like a man bracing for impact. When I worked 3 jobs, when I paid for rent, for groceries, for his textbooks, for his exams, for his entire medical career, I thought we were a team. Daniel's eyes dropped. I didn't know, I continued, that while I was holding everything together, he was spending our money on someone else. The silence that followed was thick. Claire stepped forward next. "Your Honor, we also have Daniel's written promise to repay Nora." She handed over the copy, signed in his own handwriting. Judge Doyle read it. Slow, one eyebrow lifting higher with every line. Then she looked at Daniel again. This is quite clear. He pressed his palm to his face, like he wanted to disappear into it. Claire wasn't done. And lastly, Your Honor, we have the video. Daniel's head snapped up. No, wait, please. But the judge had already pressed play. His younger voice filled the courtroom, raw and sincere. Nora paid for everything. Every dollar. Every step. I'll take care of her forever. Gasps. Murmurs. One woman in the back whispered, Oh my God. Daniel's lawyer sank back in his chair. Judge Doyle shut the laptop. Slow, deliberate, as if sealing the truth into the air. Mr. Bennett, she said, this court is deeply troubled by your conduct. Daniel swallowed hard. She wasn't finished. You misused marital funds. You misled your wife. You breached a legally binding agreement. And you attempted to abandon the very woman who built your foundation. Ouch. Even I felt that one. Then the judge turned back to me. Mrs. Bennett. Her voice softened. The court sees your sacrifice. My eyes stung. But I didn't blink. She continued. And based on the evidence presented, this court is prepared to issue its ruling. My breath caught. Daniel's fingers curled against the table. The consequences were coming. And they were going to land like thunder. Judge Doyle took a long breath. The kind of breath a judge takes right before she drops a decision no one can outrun. The entire courtroom leaned forward. Daniel didn't. He leaned back, frozen, like he wanted to sink into the chair and disappear. Too late for disappearing. Judge Doyle folded her hands. Mr. Bennett, she began, your testimony lacks credibility. Your financial history lacks honesty. And your behavior lacks integrity. Ouch! Claire stood tall beside me. Come, steady. Like she already knew what the judge was about to say. Daniel's lawyer tried to speak, but the judge glanced at him once. And he went silent instantly. Then her eyes shifted toward me. Mrs. Bennett, she said softly, please stand. My knees didn't shake this time. They didn't even warm. I stood, slow, intentional, the way a woman stands when she's finally being seen after years of being invisible. Judge Doyle looked between us. This marriage was built on the wife's sacrifice, she said. Financial, educational, emotional, complete. Daniel stared at his shoes. She continued. And the husband's actions show a disturbing pattern of deception, financial misconduct, and betrayal. She wasn't holding back. Claire glanced at me. A tiny nod, a quiet, this is it. Judge Doyle lifted the contract I'd signed years ago. The one Daniel swore was nothing. This agreement alone, she said, establishes Mrs. Bennett's financial contributions to your medical career. She placed it down firmly. Combined with the video, the receipts, and the bank transfers, the court has no doubt who invested in whom. Daniel finally whispered, Please, Your Honor. No. Her voice cracked like a whip. You will be silent. He flinched hard. Then the judge delivered it. The court rules in favor of Mrs. Bennett. A gasp swept through the room. Daniel's mouth fell open, shocked, speechless, caught. I didn't move. Judge Doyle listed the consequences slowly, each one landing like a stone. Mr. Bennett will repay all educational expenses covered by Mrs. Bennett. Mr. Bennett will provide spousal support during her continued education. Mr. Bennett will forfeit half his current assets due to financial misconduct. And Mr. Bennett will compensate Mrs. Bennett for unauthorized expenses with Ms. Reed. Ouch! That one made his lawyer's neck snap back. Judge Doyle wasn't done. She lifted the video file again. And given the emotional and financial damage inflicted, she added, the court considers this promise, made in his own voice, when determining long-term support. Daniel's eyes closed, like the world was ending. Claire squeezed my arm. Soft, proud, steady. The judge turned to me one last time. Mrs. Bennett, she said, you may now speak your final statement. If you wish. My breath caught. Not from fear, but from the weight of everything I never got to say. I stepped forward. Ready, calm, clear. Because this was my moment. When Judge Doyle said, "You may speak your final statement," the whole courtroom shifted. Like every sound got quieter. Every breath got slower.
I leaned in.
And for the first time in a long time, my voice didn't feel small. I stepped forward. Slow, calm, steady. Daniel lifted his head, eyes wide, already begging for mercy he never gave me. I didn't look at him. Not yet. I looked at the judge. "Your Honor," I began softly. "I stood by Daniel for 6 years. I carried him when he couldn't carry himself. I worked 3 jobs, slept 4 hours a night, gave up my own education, my own future, because I believed in his." My voice didn't shake, not even once. "I never asked for luxury," I continued. "I never asked for gifts. I never asked for more than honesty and respect." Daniel's jaw tightened, guilt flickering behind his eyes. "Ouch!" But instead, I said quietly, "I was told I contributed nothing. I was told I wasn't worthy. I was told my support was meaningless." I finally turned to Daniel. And he actually flinched. "I was building your dream, while you were building a life with someone else." The room exhaled all at once. Claire stood a little straighter beside me, proud, protective, ready. "I didn't come here for revenge," I said. "I came here for truth. I came here to take back the pieces of myself I lost. I came here to stop disappearing behind a man who only saw what I could do for him, not who I was." It felt good. Too good. I faced the judge again. "And today," I whispered, "for the first time, I feel seen." Judge Doyle nodded slowly, respectfully, like she understood every word I didn't say. "Thank you, Mrs. Bennett," she said. I stepped back, exhaling, feeling a weight lift off my chest that I didn't know I'd been carrying. But Daniel wasn't done falling. He stood up suddenly, panicked, voice trembling. "Your Honor, please, this isn't fair. I didn't mean for things to go this far. I didn't think." "No," the judge said sharply. "That is precisely the issue, Mr. Bennett. You did not think." His shoulders crumpled.
Claire leaned toward me.
"It's over," she whispered. "You won." And it finally hit me. I did. Judge Doyle closed the file with a firm tap. "This court's decision is final." Daniel sank into his chair, face in his hands, breathing hard, like reality was pressing down on him all at once. The judge rose.
Court adjourned.
One gavel strike, one echo, one ending. I felt the air shift. Clean, quiet, mine. And just when I thought the courtroom chapter was finished, Daniel whispered something that made me stop in my tracks. "Nora, wait." His voice broke, and the truth he finally confessed was something I never expected to hear. When Daniel whispered, "Nora, wait," I almost kept walking. Almost. But there was something in his voice. Not anger, not arrogance, not the man who called me unworthy. Something else. Something cracked. I turned slowly, not because I owed him anything, but because closure sometimes hides in the things we never planned to hear. Daniel stood there, hands shaking, eyes red, looking smaller than I had ever seen him. "Nora," he said again, voice thin, raw, unsteady. "I'm sorry." The words fell out of him, like they'd been trapped behind 6 years of pride. I didn't respond, didn't move, didn't save him from the weight of his own choices. He kept talking. Quietly, desperately. I messed up everything," he whispered. "I lost myself. I lost you. I lost the future I thought I deserved." Ouch, he rubbed the back of his neck. A nervous habit he used to have before exams. "Alexis is gone," he murmured. "She blocked my number. My friends won't pick up. My mentor told me to lay low." He laughed once. Bitter, broken. I don't even know where I'm supposed to go after this. I finally spoke. That's not my responsibility anymore. Daniel. He winced like my words physically hit him. You're right, he whispered. It's not. I needed you to know I wasn't trying to hurt you. A lie he believed, or needed to believe. You did hurt me, I said softly. You broke something I can't fix anymore. He nodded slowly, accepting it, feeling it. Then he whispered something even quieter. I ruined the best thing that ever happened to me. Silence spilled across the hallway. Heavy, unavoidable. I didn't soften. Not because I was cruel, but because this part wasn't about him anymore. It's too late, I said quietly. Not out of anger, but because I'm finally choosing myself. Claire appeared beside me. Hands folded, eyes unreadable, ready to leave if I was. Daniel swallowed hard. I hope someday you can forgive me, he whispered. I held his gaze for one last moment. Not with love, not with hate, just acceptance. I don't need to forgive you to move on, I said. I already did the moment I walked into that courtroom. Truth? Daniel's shoulders sank, defeated, finished, and in that moment, I finally saw what the judge saw. A man who lost the world he built on the back of someone who loved him more than he deserved. I turned away, slowly, steadily, closing that chapter with every step. Claire placed a gentle hand on my back. It's over, she said, but she was wrong, because as we stepped outside, into the bright, open air, I realized something powerful. This wasn't the end of my story. It was the beginning. A beginning built on truth, on strength, on the woman I was finally becoming. Stepping out of that courthouse felt like stepping into a different lifetime, one where the air didn't choke, one where my heart didn't tremble, one where I finally felt like myself again. A clean slate. Quiet. Open. Mine. Claire walked beside me, papers tucked under her arm, that proud little smile she saved only for moments like this. You did it, she whispered. I nodded slowly, but not because I defeated Daniel, not because of the court ruling, not even because of justice. I nodded because for the first time in 6 years, I felt free. We reached the parking lot. The sky looked brighter. The world felt wider. And the weight I'd carried for so long was simply
gone.
Claire squeezed my arm. What now? She asked softly. I took a breath, deep, steady. The kind of breath that belongs to a woman choosing her future with both hands. I go back to school, I said. I finish what I started before Daniel's dream swallowed mine. Claire's smile widened. And after that, I let my eyes wander across the open sky. Anything I want. Ouch. Truth like sunshine. I drove home in silence. Not the painful kind. The peaceful kind. When I walked into the apartment, the same place where I'd cooked, cleaned, cried, and hoped, it didn't feel like a cage anymore. It felt like a chapter ending, not with bitterness, but with closure. I packed slowly, carefully, folding clothes, filling boxes, removing pieces of a life that no longer belonged to me. Every item I touched felt lighter. My ring, my old work shoes, the apron from my first job, photos of a woman trying too hard to hold a dream that kept slipping. I set them aside, not with sadness, with respect for the woman who survived long enough to outgrow them. Growth. By evening, the apartment was empty, quiet, still. I left the keys on the counter, turned off the lights, and walked out without looking back. Not because I didn't care, but because I cared about myself more. 2 months later, I stood in a classroom again. Notebook open, pen ready, heart steady. Going back to school at my age? People whispered. People wondered. But I didn't care, because every time I sat at that desk, every time I learned something new, every time I built a piece of my future, I felt the strength of the woman who walked out of that courtroom. The woman who refused to break. The woman who refused to disappear. The woman who refused to be unworthy. And sometimes, on my walk home, I passed the hospital where Daniel worked. I didn't stop. I didn't stare. I didn't hurt. I felt nothing. Nothing but peace. The sweetest closure. Because I didn't win by destroying Daniel's life. I won by rebuilding mine. One step. One class. One breath. One new beginning at a time. Thank you for listening to my story. Before you go, tell me in the comments, which moment hit you the hardest? And if you want more stories of strength, healing, and unexpected victories, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss the next one.